I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we have the minutes of August 2nd.
I'd move approval of the minutes of August 2nd.
All right,
I'll second the motion.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain, I was absent.
Okay. All right, moving on, we have warrants 4, 4P, and we have the cemetery committee, number 1.
I'll move that we approve for payment warrants 4, 4P, and the cemetery committee number 1.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
On the mowing for the cemetery committee, where we had the trees cut down up there, so we have cemetery nicely mowed.
Yep.
And then we have weed field just north of that.
Yep.
I don't know if this is the point, but can we take a look at getting that mowed down? I know it's, obviously it wasn't in the budget for his
Probably
current.
the cemetery committee should look into that possibility, are you thinking?
Yeah, or could the town, could our guys do that?
I would think we could, yeah, they left it pretty smooth, didn't they, when they did the work there? I
They
would think
put
we
it
could
all off.
take our roadside mower, but,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would think. Lee's not here, so we
Yeah.
can say sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Would we ask Hugh to follow up with Lee to see if he could do that?
sure.
Okay.
I'll do that. Yep,
Okay.
great. Let's see, any other discussion? So warrant 4 is for $331,246.08. And of that, $300,000 is going to the Dummerston School. And then we had some gravel, insurance payments, health insurance payments, our Rescue Inc. monthly contract, the sheriff's monthly contract, and some mowing around the town common and town office. So, all right.
And this might be a good time to just point out that there was some confusion on the sheriff's contract. And the contract we signed with them was that we prepay for the month and then we get the detail at the end of the month. So there was some confusion about that, and hopefully this will clear it up. We're now prepaying.
Yeah, and the hours are still.
Yeah.
All right. With that, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Let's see, now we're going to go to visitors and public comments, and we've asked Cindy Jerome to come up and discuss with us about the Social Services Advisory Committee and the budget. Thanks.
Hi.
Nice to meet you, everyone.
I do.
Right.
Are there any questions for me, or should I
Launch right in? Do you
launch
have-
right in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thanks.
I'm sure we'll have some questions for you.
Well, you had questions at your last meeting, and I wanted to start by answering some of those.
Okay.
Zeke, you were right in your emails to me that 3 committee members who wanted to continue, Sarah Ryan, Bill Pels Walsh, and Rita Ramirez, none of them got a call asking if they wanted to continue, and that's been the tradition all along.
Mhm.
I'll just also mention, Rita said that she didn't remember getting a call about continuing as town service officer either. Did you?
She was on my list, and
Right,
I remember, I have a recollection of calling her and leaving a voicemail,
Ah,
but, yeah,
okay.
anyway, I know that she was on my list, and if I didn't call her, I apologize.
Well, perhaps
I
you did, she
remember,
didn't get the message.
though, in the discussions, we had the 2 J's, you and Joe were calling them. I got in touch with John Summer. But,
Oh, and there's some
Yeah.
confusion, we duplicated efforts.
Right. Yeah, I don't have my
Somebody.
list in front of me.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
In any case.
okay.
It was our intention to contact everybody.
Yes.
and-
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
I mean, we thought we
understand.
had.
and we
And
thought-
somehow it didn't conclude. so.
Okay.
I wanted to go way back, if I could. The select board created this committee in October of 2009, and they were pretty clear about feeling that it was difficult for them to fulfill what they felt was their fiduciary responsibility of analyzing requests and making sure that we were supporting organizations that deserved taxpayer dollars and that were doing good work and were serving the town of Dummerston. So that's why we were created, and we met in November of 2009. And that's when we had input on the fiscal year 11 budget. We carefully reviewed the applications, which we created a form that duplicates the Brattleboro form fairly closely. And we call for more information if we need it. We look at their budget, we look at their financial statements, whether their services are duplicated by anybody else, how much our contribution matters. You know, if it's an enormous organization with a $20 million budget, then our $400 may not mean as much as opposed to like Dummerston Cares, where our contribution means a great deal, and that's important to us. And how many Dummerston residents benefit, and also how important the service seems to be. When we started, we were still in the throes of the Great Recession, and so we were focusing on things like homelessness and food and that sort of thing, and more recently we've been conscious of the opioid crisis, and particularly children who are suffering because their parents are addicts. So then we make a recommendation and you guys decide what to put into the budget. It's your decision. So this was a surprise to me, actually. The fiscal year before the committee started, the total health and welfare budget was $14,150. In our first year, we recommended dramatically decreasing several organizations' allocations. We didn't think they were deserved. We looked at a number of factors. You accepted all of those cuts. We made a couple of recommendations for increasing. You accepted one of those, and you also moved the youth services $950 that they've been getting every year from the town forever from the Miller Fund, which used to fund that, into the health and welfare budget. So in the end, the bottom line was dropped by a total of $4,850 that first year, when you take into account the youth services money moving in and other things that were cut. In the fiscal year that we just started, $13,100 was budgeted, including the youth services money. So still $2,000 less than when we started 8 years ago. So I think we've been an asset to the town's efforts to keep spending down. I was looking for smiles with that. Let's go with the joke now.
I'm smiling.
Okay, all right. Hugh, you referred to an automatic increase, and I think you were referring to our request over the last 3 budgets for a 9 or 10% increase. Back in fiscal year 10, when we were getting more than 14,000 plus the youth services, so more than 15,000, we were more on par with similar towns. And you know, we did a lot of research, exhaustive research into what similar nearby towns give. We compared per capita giving and the percentage of the total municipal budget, and found that Dummerston was at the bottom of the heap in terms of what we were giving. We weren't doing our fair share. So when we asked first for that increase, you asked us to do a petitioned article. We did that and the townsfolk voted it in. And we were hoping that in the years since, you would automatically do it. And you have given us an increase in the 2 years since, although not necessarily as much as we had hoped, in order to try to gain ground and do our fair share. So now, I don't want to bore you. Hugh, you wondered about policy as well. There has never been a policy related to the committee. It is the Dummerston tradition, which the committee continues to support as a good tradition, is that any new organization wanting an allocation must petition. We don't just approve a new organization, they need to petition, and the townsfolk decide, and then after that, the tradition is that the select board normally includes it. We have over the years suggested that we stop funding several organizations, and you've gone along with that, and they have not come back with a petition to be back in the budget. I know that some of you, I know Stephen Hugh, you're feeling like we shouldn't be using taxpayer money for the health and welfare budget, and I know that you were wondering about Vernon. And I talked with Tim Arsenault. I wondered what exactly that was about. I saw their town report online, and they give $20,000 to elderly assistance in their own town, and $16,555 to the Vernon Seniors Van and activities. And then more than 11,000 to outside organizations, which are many of the same that every other town supports. And that had been a petitioned article every year, and it had always been approved until last year, when the absence of Vermont Yankee was really hitting them hard, and they made major cuts in every area, and that was one article that was not passed. So you're right, whoever was thinking that Vernon doesn't give this year, many people are hoping that they resume next year. We'll see, maybe it'll take some more time for their tax rate to kind of sugar off and people feel like it's okay to do that again. I'm not aware of any other town in the area that doesn't give to social service organizations. Are any of you aware of any other town that doesn't?
I haven't looked into it.
Well,
So.
Cindy, in fact, I wanted to ask, and I remember the study you did with the area towns and how they compare. But do you have any data, or have you looked into what the situation is statewide? Do most towns give, as far as you know?
I have not looked into that. The committee has not looked into that. I don't know. I think somebody told me that they had talked to VLCT and many towns elsewhere do not, but I can't say for sure. So I had a question. Steve, you suggested that we have a lot of programs in Dummerston, some that people may not be very familiar with, who are helping our own citizens in many different ways, and that's what we should be supporting. And I can't think of many that are Dummerston based, other than Dummerston Cares. I mean, we certainly have our own fire department. We've got the community chest that doesn't give direct services, but does give money.
Yeah, I had the Grange, which occasionally will do fundraisers for people in need.
Oh, and the wood pantry.
The church has
does
a wood
things.
pantry and caring and sharing.
Yeah.
I also had Dummerston Cares.
Mhm.
We actually, the community chest, and I was particularly thinking of the fire department and the fishing derby, which benefits the kids. And the other thing that we do as taxpayers is we do pay the educational tax portion for Green Mountain Camp,
Oh, yes.
which is a significant donation that is
Yeah.
outside of the social services. And then the other, you know, basically I feel this is a philosophical difference, you know, I personally, I don't know that we should be taxing people so that we feel good to give money away. I think people should be able to contribute to who they want to contribute to personally. Because who you might want to contribute to might be different than who I want to contribute to. And also this town has a significant amount of people and businesses that contribute to major endeavors in the community and who also contribute to youth services and youth soccer and so it's hard to measure that, but I can tell you as a small business, you know, you're continually bombarded with requests for donations to all these things. And then when you add on top of that, you're going to tax some people. And I feel it's a really regressive tax because the people that can afford it the least are the ones we're trying to help. So maybe we'd be helping them better if we didn't tax them to give the money away. So I think it's basically a philosophical difference more than, we all want to help people, but personally I would like to help people to help individually. I don't enjoy taxing people to give the money away. I personally don't enjoy doing that. So
I
guess
understand the philosophical thing.
I think it's more philosophical than wanting to help people. It's just how we help people. And Dummerston is full of benefactors who really donate large sums to, as you know, to organizations. And, and
I think that's true in most towns around here. Maybe Dummerston a little more because overall we have a higher household
kind of
income
an
level.
affluent community. But
Yeah.
I just struggle with this every year. I don't enjoy doing that part of our budget. So.
Well, you might want to go to the Planning Commission forum. When is that? Next week?
The 29th.
Yeah.
I think it's the 29th. But
The town plan includes as goals of Dummerston to ensure that high-quality, affordable childcare is accessible to all children and to provide for the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community. And under Healthcare and Human Services, it says, social service agencies are funded annually by the voters of Dummerston on town meeting day. So
But that's a statement that we are, you know, that isn't a policy that the planning commission has submitted, it's a statement that we do it.
Yeah, goals
Up
of
to this point, we have
Dummerston,
done it, yeah.
Yeah, that's true, that's true.
I mean, I don't wanna argue, because philosophically, we're on different sides. And
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna be a hard sell in this one.
And I need to concur, and we've talked, Cindy, a couple times, you know, and you know, last year was my first budgeting season, and when you guys came in, you know, it was a stated fact, you know, hey, we're supposed to be getting a 10% increase, is what was brought up, you know,
I
during
doubt the
that.
wording was exactly that way, but yes, we
Yeah,
were hoping
well,
for that as
so,
part of the continued
know,
plan, yeah.
So just to address that, you know, the expectation that, you know, we're struggling to try to give, you know, cost of living raises to people, but yet we're gonna turn around and give 10% to, you know, this budget item. But it really comes down to me, it's philosophical the same way, you know. Steve mentioned all the ones, you know, the Green Mountain Camp's a big one. I think when I looked, you know, that's almost $6,000 that we fund in property and taxes to pay their education fund. So
Yeah.
sometimes these things don't necessarily, they get lost. You know, people don't realize that, you know, when we vote on town meeting day to say, you know, we're giving you tax exempt status, well, that money still is being paid to the state for the education
Oh,
fund.
yes.
So our taxes are paying
I'm
that.
well aware of that,
So
yeah.
it's kind of one of those where, you know, majority of people may understand that, but we don't really like bring that out clearly so everyone, you know, just by saying tax exempt. It's really not. We're still being taxed, you know,
Yes.
citizens. So
Yeah,
without beating that one up. So I think we do a lot of things that take care of our mandate for, you know, the health and welfare, social service aspect in the town. You know, Dummerston Cares is back up, you know, that would be something I would support. But the rest of these things, they fundraise themselves. And, you know, like most families, you know, you sit down, you know, when you come time to write your checks and you go, well, you know, this is what we're gonna be able to donate. This is what we feel like we could donate, you know. You may put your second kid in college, so it may be less than it was the year before. You know, the kids graduate. If you do what I do, you tear their bedrooms out so they can't move back in. And then, you know, you have a little extra, you know, money to do that. But everything we give to is based on our life experiences and our philosophies. And for us to use the power of the government to essentially take money from people, I think it's wrong. You know, I mean, I'm always looking for ways to not take people's money. You know, they should be able to do with it. They work hard for it. They earn it. They should spend it how they choose to. And between the things we do, like the tax exempt status, the Dummerston Cares, which, you know, I think probably fits most of the bill that we really need to be doing. The rest of these are personal choices and just shouldn't be in the budget. You know, we should not be taxing people.
I appreciated the conversation you and I had about that a few weeks ago. I think you're right, people give to their churches and their alma maters and a veterans organization if they've got that history in the military that's important to them. I'm not sure who has the history with homelessness who can give to the homeless shelter, which we don't have in Dummerston. Hospice services, who gives to that? It's, you know, people experience hospice aren't here to give anymore. Mental health counseling, home health agency, a battered women's shelter. Those are things that we don't have in Dummerston. We can't support through Dummerston Cares or Green Mountain Camp. Those are important, laudable things, but I think there's more to look at and more that's needed. There is one thing that we talked about here that I really do agree with, though. You made the point that members of any committee tend to self-select. If they want to be on the committee, they tend to be passionate about the cause and advocate hard for whatever it is. And I want to tell you that I don't feel like the Social Services Advisory Committee is critically important to continue. And I think I speak for the members in general as well, that we don't see that as imperative, especially since we did, I think, the most important work in the first couple of years in saying, wait a minute, these guys are getting insurance reimbursement for almost everything they do, so we're going to greatly reduce, you know, they were getting 10 times as much as any other organization, we're going to reduce that. And we made a lot of adjustments, and more recently, it's been more tweaks because of the opioid crisis or something like that. So if you decide to take back the fiduciary responsibility of evaluating applications and so forth, or maybe you don't want to evaluate them at all, you don't want to put anything in the budget. But I can assure you that there are multiple people who will be out there with petitions to petition an article to fund social services. And my sense is whether it's in town meeting or by Australian ballot, the town will choose to continue to fund social services. It's just such a normal thing that most people see as our responsibility, that we need to do our part. So we would do that, and I'm not sure that's the best way to do it. I'd rather you guys be able to put your stamp on whatever, who's gonna get what, rather than it just being by a petitioned article, but I guess that's where I leave it.
Let me put my 2 cents in. If we're going to have a social services budget, I would prefer to have a group of people to vet those organizations. I don't know if, I was on the board prior to the committee getting started, and being on the board now, I know we have enough things to do to look into these groups and make these decisions in a depth that you're able to. I don't think too many of us are able to spread ourselves and still keep track of painting the white lines and the other things that we're looking at. Philosophically, I feel Steve and Hugh, I guess I would be in their camp, but as being health officer in Dummerston over the last several years, I've seen situations where we haven't been able to help or take care of a situation, sometimes an emergency situation, inside Dummerston. We've had to go to these organizations that are listed in the town report. And so I feel that even if we were to just say, okay, let's just give some money to Dummerston Cares and let them take care of it, they wouldn't be able to have the resources to deal in-house with some of the problems that come up in town.
Yes.
And they would have to go to these same agencies. And so I'm thinking that, reluctantly, I'm thinking that I'm leaning towards keeping social services as part of the budget. The amount, I think, I'd like to discuss and then come to the committee and say, this is what we think we can do this year. And if you can allocate it among the groups that you think, are deserving the most attention from residents. I think that's sort of how I'm leaning. I'd like to invite Dummerston Cares in again and see, get their take on this as we get closer to the budget season. But that's how I'm looking at this now.
Yeah, I too was on the select board, I believe, when we asked for the help, and it just seems like it's sort of shifted a little bit too. Originally, we had this amount of money and we needed help to see how to dispense it. In the last couple of years, I felt like the Social Services Committee was asking for the money and it was up to us to approve it. It seemed like it kind of got shifted. But I will also thank you for reminding me about the Miller Fund, because I do remember that discussion, and I'm glad we did it that way and took it out of that. But that does bring a point to mind that I had forgot, so thank you for that.
I thought Zeke's comments were very well taken. I have struggled with this a little bit. I'm just wondering, again, is this the role of town government to be giving, taxpayers' money away? But it's going to be an interesting budget season when we have this discussion, and I would far rather have the Social Services Committee reviewing these matters and making a recommendation to us than do it ourselves, because as Zeke said, I just don't think we have the resources to address it.
So maybe I didn't catch your, so are you you saying keep the social service committee, or are you saying talk to Dummerston Cares and see if we should just, because they're the ones who we would turn to if we have a problem as a health
and
officer?
see, I don't know if Dummerston Cares wants us to do
Right,
that.
right,
So
right.
I'd like
So-
to get them in here and, you know, they came initially to let us know they were back in business. I'd like them to come in and sort of give us an update and have us have a chance to ask questions. What are they doing? What are they capable of doing? What's their take on this? Could they use an increase in their budget? So to get some information as we sort of evaluate where we stand on this.
Okay. So with the potential, see if they have the capability to kind of take over this, like they would get the, say, a dollar amount from the town and they would allocate?
You know, I'm not good, I'm not
I mean, is that what you
ready,
wanna
I'm
ask?
not ready to say that. I just need some more information.
Okay,
And while I process this.
okay. So it sounds like we're gonna invite Dummerston Cares in
Yeah.
quickly.
I mean, I'll just make one comment. I feel that the organizations that Cindy mentioned, hospice, homeless, I don't know, you mentioned 4 or 5, specifically are organizations that people might individually choose to support because they just had someone in their family die and they used those services, and those services don't cost anything. And I think those organizations are really critical to the welfare of all of us, and that it takes both individual contributions and town contributions to have them be strong organizations. And I kind of see the towns as another level of what supports our lives. Individually, we can do what we do and we each make our own decisions. And then towns, as a town is an entity. And I think a town as an entity has a responsibility to keep these organizations strong that contribute to the health and well-being. So I think it's pretty natural and normal that a town would support these organizations, and I think that it's unusual that a group of people would be as dedicated to do the kind of research that they've done to give me as a select board member the confidence that yes, we're using these funds in the best way to support the kind of organizations that are critical to the well-being of all of the residents equally. So in combination with what we each choose to give.
And I should mention that in many cases, the big grant money and foundation money that these organizations rely on is much more readily obtained if they can say,
Right.
each town in our county supports us. These are the places that believe in what we do. That really matters, even if we're only giving $100, $200. That makes a big difference.
Could you just refresh my mind on the Groundworks Collaborative?
Yes.
Would you refresh my mind what they do?
It's a combination of the Morningside Homeless Shelter and the Brattleboro Area Drop-In Center.
All right, okay, thank you.
They've merged and they're Groundworks. Yeah.
So I can see, you know, we give $600 in this current fiscal year to the Windham County Humane Society. And so, you know, some people who don't have a dog or a cat could say, well, geez, why are you taxing me for, you know, those dog lovers and cat lovers? God, I don't have one, and I don't feel like I should be, you know. So there are some things, you know, we've had people come and say, well, I want those white lines painted on the side of the road, because when I'm driving at night, I can't see. Well, I can see perfectly well. I look at the yellow one down in the middle, and I, you know, figure out where I am in the road. But, you know, they want the white lines, so
Well, you
that's,
know,
it's,
on a rainy night,
it's
you know,
part of,
when
you know.
the headlights hit you, you like that red
Yeah,
line,
you-
you can't stare at the yellow line. So those-
I could see it.
those
Point
older
is
way-
well taken.
Oh, God, that's another discussion. Jeez.
But I,
Another night.
But Gerald, I think we said, again, it's really philosophical, I think we support our fire department, we support the sheriff's department, we support rescue departments, so we take care of the fundamental requirements, I think, is the town's obligation to look out for the residents of the town, whether it's medically, safety, and then the rest of these are more a individual type thing. The role of government is to take care of those big things for the people of the town. And I think we do generously and adequately look out for those things. And that's so maybe from a libertarian standpoint, then that's where I would say at that point now these are now individual choices when you come to those. It's certainly government is responsible for that health and well-being, police protection, safety, whether fire or, rescue when somebody has to call that. So we take care of those things. And then beyond that, it should be an individual's choice, I think, to give, for charity.
Well, like I said, it's gonna be an interesting
Yeah.
budget discussion.
Yeah.
So let's get Dummerston Cares in here. We will continue this discussion.
Yeah, it's a great discussion.
Thanks, Cindy, for coming in and having a frank discussion.
On
Yes,
to,
thanks for being so prepared.
people want to let us know their thoughts
Right.
on this. And anyone in the public have a question?
In the peanut butter.
I'd just like to comment that these same people that are paying taxes in Dummerston are also giving money to Community Chest. And that should be something that the select board should know. I don't know if you are aware of what is given to what organization, but all of them help the people in this town.
Do you happen to have a list, Jean, of those? Because I know, there we are. So we both give to Grace Cottage Hospital and
Let's see.
Dummerston Cares. That's the only overlap that I see.
So, and then Green Mountain Camp.
But,
But
We
that's
don't.
not, no, but
Right.
that's still a town.
yes,
Yes.
my point is,
Yeah.
the community chest is amazing, focus more on Dummerston, which is great, and uses private money, but there isn't much overlap here at all. We support another dozen or 15 organizations that we see as critical to the social fabric of our community.
But if some of these organizations that we give to, if we didn't give to them, they'd be also asking the town for that to be on their budget to bring to you. Just so you know.
Stay tuned. Any? All right. So we'll just sort of keep this on the agenda and keep on talking about it.
And we're gonna get Dummerston Cares in, which
Yep.
is the next logical step.
Yeah. Okay. Ready to move on? Okay. Is there anything you'd like to?
Yes.
Okay. Are you,
Say? Yes.
yes, what?
May I?
Yeah.
Yeah,
At the
right, yeah,
table?
you come up to the table, yeah.
Okay. My name is Sally Fegley, and I have my business card for you. Joe might have one already. I'm a real estate agent with Better Homes and Gardens, the Masiello Group. And thank you for taking the time.
Well, we're not sure, I might cut you off.
Okay.
I haven't heard what you actually want us to do.
I'm the listing agent for 3219 Vermont Route 30, which is also known as Maple Valley
Right?
in Dummerston.
Okay.
And I've had it for about 2 months as a listing.
Right?
And I've been receiving many inquiries about it. And one of the overriding sentiments I've been hearing from potential buyers is that there's a perception that the town of Dummerston is not interested in doing anything with the property. There's a perception out there that Dummerston is very happy just keeping Maple Valley dormant. It's been dormant now for 17 years. And I think it's proving not to be viable as a ski slope. So as the listing agent, I'm very interested in for the sake of the buyer and the seller, interested in making the property viable again in some reuse. I think probably the best thing that could happen to the property is that it be repurposed. And so, and I would like to make the buyers and sellers happy, and I would like to make the town of Dummerston happy by repurposing it in a way that's in the best interest of the town. And I've been thinking a lot about how the land could be used. It's a spectacular piece of property. It's almost 385 acres. It's the whole face of a mountain, which, you know, in itself is exceptional.
Yes, we
It's-
know, we know.
It's 270-degree views from the top. It's
I don't-
river frontage.
Probably none of us are going to buy. What would you like us to do?
That was one of my questions, actually.
We thought you were gonna buy it, we were just waiting for that.
Exactly.
Okay, so what would you like us to do?
So, well, what I would like to know is, you know, what interest does the town have in the property, and what would the town like to see the property be developed as? I mean, there are many recreational uses it could be repurposed for. There's the riverfront, so there could be kayaking, fishing, etc. There could be mountain biking, there could be snowmobiling. There is discussion about using that wonderful building, 16,000 plus square feet, you know, for weddings and events.
How many closets does it have?
We'd build some for you.
All right.
So I'm just
I
wondering,
don't
like,
think
what
it's-
the
that's a-
town, what in the town's
Okay, what?
mindset, what would
It's-
It's
the
really,
town like
this
to
is
see?
probably the wrong, probably you should be talking to the planning commission.
Okay.
commission,
And the
All right.
DRB.
And the DRB.
Okay.
Well,
But
at
more
this
so the
point,
planning
though-
commission at this point.
At this point, you know, I've studied the zoning, and I think it's possible to use it for housing, recreation, and other uses without getting any variances. So I wasn't really sure that the DRB was the place to go because, well, I guess at some point they would have to approve those.
Well, have you looked at the previous permits that were issued from the town?
I did whatever I could dig up, and I did see that a couple of years ago, the town granted permission on a conditional basis,
Yep.
pending the Act 250 permitting, to expand recreational uses and so on.
Yep.
And then it seems from what I could uncover, the Act 250 permit was never applied for.
As far as I know, that's true, but the DRB, so I guess to answer your question, you can see from your repurposing question, you know,
Yes.
when they came to it as far as recreational, you saw what that permit was. Now, I believe that would be expired because no
Yes,
action's been
yeah,
taken
that's
for
right,
2 years. But
absolutely.
so I guess you could see, at least at that time, what was asked for and, you know, through discussion, you know, what was approved. You know, there were some limits put on that, but anything on that side, I think, would be restricted by the Act 250. You know, Dummerston only has so much
Right.
ability to do it, and then you'll see there'll be an interest from the neighbors who are in there.
Yes.
But I think, you know, as far as what you could do and couldn't do without being referred to the DRB, have you talked to Roger, our zoning administrator?
No, I talked to another woman who was working in zoning at the time. This is a couple months ago.
Okay, so Roger Giuseppis is the zoning administrator, so
Okay.
he could give you an outline of
Well, I
what
have
could
the,
be done.
I got the zoning. I mean, I
Right.
have all that ordinance.
So that he could probably help you with a bylaw to take a look at your options, because honestly, anything that you're talking about is probably a conditional use, which would have to go be a petition to the DRB. So in other words, you have to go through the, you know, the warrant. It's about a 6-week process at best,
Right, right.
you know, 2 months more likely. So that may be, as far as us, all we can do is say, well, if it's the zoning bylaw, you know, you're gonna, you know, we're kind of arm distance from the zoning administrator. He'll, whoever you're looking, or whatever you're looking to do with it, you would talk to him. He's probably gonna have to, or whoever would like to do something would have to put a request in. Most likely it'll be denied, refer to the development review board, and then go through the hearing process, which like I said is 6 weeks to 2 months long, so.
So in terms of, I mean, is there any town vision for that property? Because it's such a significant piece of real estate.
I think a caveat here might be that in the 17 years, there has been a little change in the outlook of the town and maybe not being, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I don't think so, not being so restrictive. I think at one point we were very restrictive on things that were being done in town. And I think we're maybe a little open-minded now, a little more open-minded. There's different people on boards and different people on commissions and different people on the DRB.
And I think that
The
permit.
zoning has changed.
Was the sign of that,
Lens-
yes.
So I think I would encourage you to, because I think the perception of Vermont is that we're anti-business, as we spoke earlier.
Right.
Unfortunately, we have that perception, and I think Dummerston has had that perception for quite a while, and I would hope that we're realizing that we need to grow a little bit. This is just personal speaking, I'm not speaking for the board
Well,
here.
I mean-
But I do know we've changed a lot of our
Okay.
people in the positions, and I think there might be a little more openness. Would that be unfair to say? I don't think so.
it's unfair.
Yeah.
But I think any potential clients you have, probably, as Hugh has said, you know, the route to see what might be possible would be to go through the zoning and DRB.
Absolutely,
Okay.
but because this perception exists, you know, I think if I can go, I have a buyer who said, I wanna hear what happens at the select board meeting. So if I can go to that buyer and say, the town believes they're more open to possibilities than they were in the past. You know, if I could say that to them, it might make people, it's a big risk for buyers.
Yeah.
This is a property priced at $950,000. So, so to add the uncertainty of approvals, you know, I think if they just had some sense that there were possibilities, it might make them less hesitant to move forward on it.
Okay.
And it's definitely in the town's best interest, I think, to have something happen there, because that building's been empty for 17 years. It's still in good shape, but it's showing signs of wear, and if it
Okay.
sits through another 17 years, you know, it could become a real eyesore in the town, and, you know, I wouldn't think you would want that to happen, so.
Let me tell you my vision for the
Yeah,
place.
yeah,
It's not very
please.
realistic, I'm afraid.
Oh.
Our children, our boys grew up skiing in Maple
Yeah.
Valley and have very fond memories of that. And, you know, I would love it if and I've actually had some discussions with some folks at Stratton and Mount Snow about this. If Stratton, Mount Snow, Broadley, Okemo bought the place and used it for sort of a training ground for students, you know, and, you know, I would think you could probably get most of the schools here that have in the area that have after-school programs. And they'd love to take the kids to a smaller hill where everybody ends up at the same place. And if you think of it from the ski industry standpoint, you know, this is their future. I think it would be difficult, though, getting, and this would be a drop in the bucket for these big ski areas, but I think the challenge would be to get them to cooperate on such a venture.
But I mean, I think what Sally said is that it's not really viable as a ski area. I mean,
I understand.
even to make snow, it has to be a certain temperature, and
Yeah.
we're not getting those temperatures. So I think that
Yeah.
someone who buys it has to have a 12-month plan for it, not a 2-month plan. I don't think it's ever going to be a ski area again. But you know, I'd be interested to know what to tell Sally to get sort of general sentiment. You know, one thing is about the permitting and where the town stands from that standpoint, but the other is, you know, what would the town of Dummerston, what would individuals want to see for it? And are there some strong opinions of local people in terms of what they do, and perhaps even more importantly, what they don't want to see?
Yeah, I think their best bet would be, that last permit we gave was a pretty broad-ranging permit.
Yes,
So I mean, it really was, they had a lot of options. I mean, you know, they came in with a, you know, it's a grand list. Well, that's, you know, we narrowed it down to some very viable things, you know, they never went forward. But honestly, you know, not taking to your job, but any buyer would buy it on contingent upon, you know, the permitting process, and it's not a very expensive process in Dummerston. You know, it may take a little bit of time, but if someone wanted to do it and they had a plan, like I said, it's 6 weeks to 2 months to have a DRB hearing. That would be your answer from Dummerston.
Right, and that would be much better than trying to get a sense from us of what some hypothetical buyer. So I think I'm ready to move on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes, very
Yeah,
interesting.
good luck, good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, talk it up.
I drive all the time, it's a nice area, it really is, so good luck.
Well, it's spectacular from the top.
Thank you.
Thanks,
My
Sally.
pleasure, thank you.
Dawn Hubbard, our Emergency Management Director.
Thank you. I'm sorry about this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's count it off. That was good discussion. I'm sorry you brought that to such a quick end.
Oh, I know you want to go on vacation. So, we have the sub-grant application.
I made Lori's edits, so I have two versions. The one with the select board as the fiscal agent and the one with Charlotte as the fiscal agent. So
Okay,
you guys have to decide
yeah.
which is
We've
which.
done this before, right?
Yes,
And
and
the
the select
select
board
board was
last
the
year was the
Fiscal
fiscal agent.
So, I see no need to jump horses. What's the expression they use? Change horses when,
In the middle of the stream.
yeah.
I mean, the treasurer can't pay anything without our approval, so it would make sense that we would be
Let's
the...
cut out the
Lori
middle
just
person.
questioned it, so
Yeah.
we just,
That's good, so we have.
okay, so there's
two copies. All right,
the corrected version.
oh, that's all right, I
And
just
it
tried to
added-
give one away. I mean,
You run out yet?
And it added the generator
yeah,
Oh,
in
yeah.
there.
generator maintenance.
Yep.
Which Lori also put it in, or Charlotte put in there.
So we've already approved this, right? I mean, we basically just have to sign it? Didn't we
No,
already?
no, this
No,
is
this is
a
for
different deal.
this year.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll move
It would be
it.
great if we
Wait.
approved it, but
Hold
didn't
on.
discuss it, and
Yeah.
just signed away.
I think, now, this has,
Oh, I remember there was some
Should we
discussion.
move in second and then have discussion?
let's see. How about, we have it later on as a,
Oh, okay.
so we could vote on it later on. We can
Okay.
talk about
We'll
it
just talk
to our
about it.
heart's content right now. The idea of kits, that you would distribute to vulnerable households around town, I think is a great idea,
You need clarification on that, don't you?
No, I love the idea. I thought it was a fabulous idea. But then when I went through the list of the items, there's a 13-piece
There's-
knife, a
There's
whistle.
modification, those lists are what was on the website as their current kit. I am
Oh,
working,
okay.
so that was the prices that I came up with as placeholders.
Okay,
So I'm working with the vendors
Ah.
to make them specific for the age population.
okay, good, because
So it'll
the
modify and bring them down.
vulnerable people, I was
Don't need
thinking of,
them
probably couldn't
tools,
open
no.
the 13-piece
No.
knife.
No, so those are price holders.
Okay,
So they haven't faxed me quotes, so that gave me the five, what did I have in there, 500, 10 of them for $500 at $100 a piece, so they'll be dropped down, which is
Okay.
why I didn't put a specific, one kit at X number of dollars.
Mhm. Okay,
So I left it open-ended.
okay, good. So I'm relieved. So you're going to go ahead with the kits, and you'll modify these kits so they will actually be helpful to,
Looks like you've got $50 a kit,
Yes.
10 for
vulnerable,
$500.
and to help get them through, a couple day no power situation, ice storm or,
Yeah, I'm looking at, because it's supposed to be the transition from Vermont Yankee
Yeah.
days to our all hazards
Mhm.
plan.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the special needs population, which I want to start with, if this works well, we can continue each year with expanding a little bit. I don't want to say elderly, but a population that, maybe,
a vulnerable population.
yeah,
I like that.
maybe way out on Stibney Brook where they can't get out of their driveway as easily if we have the ice storm. I was thinking Marlboro, when Marlboro got hit several years
Yeah,
ago.
with the ice storm.
Who's the hardest ones or the last ones to get out of their homes? And they're gonna be, the most not devastated, but are gonna, you know, be needing that food supply for the 3 days. Or the water for the 3 days.
Okay.
So I have an offbeat question here. My page 3 and page 6 are blank. Are they supposed to be?
They
your
all
copy.
came out.
Okay, all right, okay.
They all
I just
came
wanted to
out
make sure I
blank.
wasn't missing something,
No,
okay. all right.
They all came out blank from
Okay.
the state form.
Okay.
And how do we, and I apologize, I didn't read your, I didn't get a chance to go through what you sent out earlier, but the 10 kits, or how do we identify the 10 vulnerable
I
people?
spoke with somebody from Dummerston Cares about this last year.
Okay,
And they are willing to help go through and identify who those individuals are, so it's not gonna be me just randomly selecting people.
Driving around and,
So we haven't put specific identifiers in place,
Mhm.
but we're looking at, you know, where do they live? What is the potential of different hazards? You know, are they close to the roadway, close to the train tracks, floodplains, the higher elevations? You know, what is their vulnerabilities? You know, stuff that we would have used for Vermont Yankee, but kind of switch it over to the all hazards. And see which 10 people we could come up with to be kind of like a pilot program.
I mean, 10 is, that seems like, I don't know how many family households we have, I mean, that's a pretty small number.
yeah,
You know,
it's
so-
not
Well,
800
Yeah, when you
and
say
something
pilot,
households.
that makes a little more sense
Yeah.
to see if it's worth it to
I
do
mean,
it.
would this be something you really, I mean, rarely do we get hit by a storm we have zero warning about. So would this be something you might, you know, keep here, and then it depends, you know, if it's a snowstorm, it might go to the mountains. If it's a flood, it might go, you know.
Well, if they're here,
But-
you might not be able to
but I'm
get it
saying, you're not- this is, nothing's gonna happen. I mean,
Right.
we don't, you know, it's not like all of a sudden we're snowed in before we walk out of this building. You know, we know
Right.
3 or 4 days
Days
after
ahead
the
of
storm
time.
comes, you know, we
and
know.
that's an option
Yeah.
that we can look at doing, is keeping them here and taking,
Right.
you know, identify, you know, more than 10 houses and
Yeah.
say, okay, here's where we're gonna,
Right. And because
Really
they can't
take
get
them.
to us, that's not saying we couldn't get to them. I mean, I just,
ahead of time.
there's way to build flexibility into this, I
Right.
think, as opposed to picking 10 people, which is probably 1% of our households, and, you know, handing them a kit and give them good luck.
So this is also
I think it was-
$600 of 15,000, you know, we're talking about a
Right.
little tiny
Yeah.
part of
And I
the,
think it would depend on what the kit is and what the criteria is that they decide. I mean, if it's special needs people, then
Right.
it might be that it's very easy to distribute them
Right.
at a time.
And we can fine tune all the details after.
Yeah.
I mean, for the purposes of the grant, I have to say, here's the dollar amounts, here's the concept
Yeah.
of what we wanna
Yep,
do with
yeah,
it.
and get it started.
And if they say, here you go, then we can fine tune all the details
Mhm.
after. I didn't wanna throw too many out there to start with, I just thought it would be kind of, if it, you know, you got too many meals sitting there on a shelf, you know, what are you gonna do with them if they just sit?
I'm gonna move that we sign this public safety supplement
Okay,
application.
so, okay, we could do that if you're willing to jump ahead in our agenda,
Oh,
and, which is fine with me. Everyone
I think
okay
we
with
should
that?
do it with Dawn sitting there,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, she can take it away with her, yeah.
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Okay, we're good with jumping ahead? Okay, all right, we've got a motion, second, any more discussion?
so what's the timing of this, Don?
I have to get it into them by next week. Even though it says August 11th, they are giving extensions to all of the towns.
So you have it in by next week, and then when do we hear?
It usually takes about a month before they let us know. They'll send back a statement saying you've been okayed with it, but it's confusing because you get the letter saying that it's okay, but they don't actually dispense the monies until later, so you can use the money, but it's not
You don't have it? yet.
reimbursed.
Mhm.
Okay, I see no, okay, any more discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain, just because
Okay.
I didn't have a chance to read through this thing.
All right. I don't see any place to sign, so you're just
You,
good?
under authorizing
Oh.
official and then down
Okay.
under fiscal agent.
Okay, all right, so it's just one person. All right.
Yeah, if we don't get the grant, you still have to give us the money.
All right.
And then also here, right? You want him to sign here also?
Yeah, he did.
I think you
Both
got
places?
Yeah.
Okay.
I signed every place there was a line.
Yeah, thank you, Don.
So do you want me to come back and find detail how we're gonna work this out, or?
Well, it might
wait
be
till we
nice
get
to
it.
hear,
Till we
or,
get it
you know,
approved.
but, you know, if you do end up getting the 13-piece knife, I'd sort of like to keep it. Maybe at least something.
Or it could certainly be handled just with an email or something to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Although.
But it would be nice to know what we,
Yeah,
how we decided. and what we
Right, you're always
decided.
welcome.
Yeah.
Stop
So
by.
these are extra copies. You've got the
Yes.
copy that
I've
you
got
need.
the
Zeke,
ones
do you
that-
want a copy for yourself?
Sure, I'll.
Since
give
you're the
one
one
to
that
He just
somebody
wants the
on-
knife kit for.
Yeah, the knife and the whistle, there's a whistle. Would you, did you get one of these? We're having a sale on
Maple Valley, yeah.
real estate. I
have my
think
thoughts
they
of what
take
it can be used
900,000.
I bet you do.
I think it would be the greatest business and conference center,
I
since
do.
there is not one in the Brattleboro area that
Yeah.
holds more than 30, 40 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is my thought.
Well, it's on camera now, John.
Yeah.
Put an offer in.
Yeah.
You know, if I get $15,000 grant,
Maybe
I'll
that's
do
your
that.
deposit, yeah. Night, Don, thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks for your work.
Stopping by. Okay, let's see. Our road foreman's report, let's see. I don't see Lee here. Don't think he's in the back, so we could move on. Anyone have any road
Well,
issues?
I mentioned a pothole on our road, and I was pleased that he
Oh.
promptly took care of that.
Oh, great.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, I've noticed a big dip between Leonard Road and Stickney Brook Road that needs a little attention, so
Okay,
I was hoping he'd be here tonight.
all right. Well, you know his number,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, maybe he'll watch this.
Yeah, maybe.
Hi, Lee.
Any other road? Okay, then let's move on. Under correspondence for information, there's a meeting, a rescue meeting on the 31st of this month, 7 PM at the Brattleboro Station. And they're looking for select board members to go.
Yeah, I think we should definitely have somebody go. It's on my calendar.
Great.
Anybody else want to arm wrestle me for it?
No,
Steve?
I'm,
I'm hoping to try to go, but it, just depends on work, so.
I don't know at this point.
okay.
All right, well, it's on my calendar.
Right.
If, I don't think 3 of us need to go. So if 2 other people are going, I'd be happy to have the night at home, but,
I've already got you written in here.
all right, all right.
Okay, but you'll let us know how,
Yeah, I learned a lot last time I was there, and
that's great,
yeah.
good. Anything else under correspondence for information you want to discuss?
I would like to again be the representative from Dummerston to the town fair. I would auspiciously point out it is a 2-day event. And I probably would be putting in for a motel room.
Do they, one with a swimming pool?
Yeah, they do have pretty good swimming. It's actually at Killington. Yeah. They switch it from the north end of the state to the south end of the state.
So why does it come to the south end of the state?
Well, yeah, they call Killington the south end. I've gone, I think I've done it, this might be the 3rd year.
Yeah,
And I actually enjoy it. It's one of the thing I don't mind taking time off to go do. So if you'd allow me to be a representative, I'd love to be. But
right.
You've come back in previous years with a good report, which I very much appreciate, Steve.
yeah, I kind of find it interesting. So usually I'm not a big go-to-meeting person, but this is usually quite interesting to me.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm not good with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
We talked about that, the hotel last year, right? So it's in the budget for that, right, or no?
Don't recall what we have in our budget for
I thought
that.
we kind of.
We discussed it, I know. And Maria is possibly going, but if she does, we'll just pay for her, so I probably won't, but,
I was thinking I could maybe book you in with one of the new paying select board members here.
try it.
Well, I don't think there should, yeah, I'm all good with that. There should be no
Okay.
expectation of driving up the tax.
Last year, the lodging was off-site and we had to find our own lodging,
Yeah,
and
it was-
UVM had an event going on,
Yep.
and it's during fall foliage,
Yeah.
and the room was expensive.
Yeah, so I think,
This year, they had lodging prepared for at Killington, so.
okay.
Good.
The last time I went, I think I stayed at Killington when it was there.
So it seems to me that we've saved a fair amount of money by not having a select board assistant. You know,
We have interim select.
we have an interim, yeah. But, you know, if Maria wants to go, I think that, we might be able to scare up the money to not have them, have to pay that.
She wouldn't have to sleep in the car? That would really be better.
Anyway,
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, anything else there? We had a couple letters from people with ideas for increasing participation or interest in being on a committee if we form one. Want to move on? Anything else? Okay. Okay, under discussion and or action, we have a request from Savage Races LLC to hold a mini marathon on May 16th, 2018, running a loop from the Green Iron Bridge up Quarry Road, crossing the covered bridge down Route 30 and doing that 7 times. And they want our permission.
Well, I guess not having encountered this before, is that like a special event that would have to be like permitted? And is that, or what?
is this like when the Morris dancers ask if they can dance on the lawn?
I don't
or-
think, this is a little bit of a different deal. This is a company, I looked them up. They charge the runners $95, and they will be in Portland, Maine on the 14th. They'll be in Nashua, New Hampshire the 15th, and then they're proposing to be here on the 16th. You know, and they call it Maple, you know, each state, they just go around. And so every day is a different state and every day is a different race.
And it's the same people?
It's the same group of people who organize it.
Right, but not the same people who are running. They organize it in these different states. And
Yeah.
so it's a money-making thing.
Yes, business. And they say they'll have someone working to direct traffic as these runners are crossing the bridges. And I have an issue with that, since I don't know this group.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a state road,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure if we can actually give
I
them
don't,
permission.
I'm reluctant to give them.
7 times around.
It's about
How-
a 3-mile loop, so
and
it's 20, it's.
How many people?
They put it out there and, you know, get who they, you know, I think his letter says anywhere from half a dozen to 50 people.
And we're all expected to start training and participate if we,
Yeah, it's part of the road.
If I was running a marathon, would I want to run?
Cindy Jerome, you
through
seem to
those-
have a comment.
Not
Bridges.
worth saying, thank you.
No, go ahead, those are the best, those are the ones I want to hear.
The way you described the route, I imagined them crossing Route 30 to run south,
Yes,
but maybe they want to run south facing oncoming traffic.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
Okay,
Yes.
right.
okay.
Make them hire the sheriff?
Yeah, that was gonna be,
That's what I
that was gonna be my suggestion,
Yeah,
was make them
right.
hire the sheriff,
that's what they'd have to do.
and we might have to, even say how many sheriff's department, how many sheriffs, but,
And make a large donation to the social services budget, that's another possibility.
Yeah, that's a great one.
It might have been worse, Dave.
I guess my concern would be for the people, particularly on the east side of the river where they're coming back the road. I guess if there's 20, that's not bad, but 50 people coming by 7 times would.
May 16th, is that a Saturday?
It's
No,
a
that's
Wednesday.
a Wednesday.
Oh, it's a Wednesday.
You know, I think they're in Massachusetts on Thursday.
So would a car be able to go through the covered, would people have to stop? Would they have to stop the people running for a car to go through?
I couldn't think they could, because if it's a marathon, you're gonna be timed.
Right,
so
I
they're
think
gonna
the
stop
cars
the
would be,
car and
their
send the
people would probably stop the cars.
Yeah,
And then when would a car be able to go through? When there's nobody running?
yeah, when you get a space between.
I mean, if they've got enough people, there are gonna be people running
Right,
constantly.
they're gonna
So it's
space
kind of
that.
stops the traffic from the bridge?
We used to do the bike in the marathons and the bike marathons with rescue, and you, Maria and I used to sit at some pretty nasty spots, and you can usually find somewhere to let a car go through. I don't think that's an issue, but where do you park 50 cars?
Make
I
it
don't see any benefit
Yeah.
really to the town to have people running around 7 times around the loop.
Well, and that it's both bridges, you know, like if it's just one bridge and you can choose to go through the other bridge, that's fine. But that you're tying up both bridges for how many
Well, it's
hours?
gonna be a 4 or 5 hour, well, probably 5 to 6 hour.
Yeah, 5 to 6 hour thing. I don't know, that seems like a hazard to me, to tie up both bridges for 5 to 6 hours.
We do have to remember that there are some other events that do exactly this, so we want to be very careful how we tread.
What do you mean?
Is
Say
it rescue, or who is it that does, or is it the hospital?
Oh,
That did the
rescue-
run last
They
year.
do one in Jamaica.
Well,
Yeah,
they
there
do
was
it
one
up and
there
down
last
Route
year.
30.
Is there?
And they go
they
through
came
one
across
bridge.
the covered bridge.
Well, yeah, but they're not tying up both bridges, are they?
I don't know where they went on the south end. I almost, maybe they came all the way up the trail from Route 5. I guess I don't know that. But they were crossing the covered bridge, but I don't know that that was a marathon. That was a fundraiser, and so it wasn't timed, and so you could stop the people if there was a car.
You know, we talked earlier about, you know, perception of being anti-business and, you know, I would prefer not to discourage them, but you know, there have been some good concerns raised. I'm wondering if something like, you know, a loop on the Upper Dummerston Road might be more appropriate.
Well, I think, you know, Route 30's awesome because of the wide
Well, but-
shoulder. The Upper Dummerston Road is, I had to ride my bike because Route 30 was closed and it was scary.
Well,
About up and down Camp Arden.
I think we'd like to make another route for them, you know.
well,
I don't know,
mean,
it just seems like an odd route to
I
me.
ride my bike on Upper Dummerston Road a lot, and yeah, I mean, these folks are going to be spread out, and you know, there is a wide shoulder on Route 30.
When I looked at their other routes on their
Yeah.
website, you know, they do these circles. They're gonna run around the Great Pond in Portland. They're gonna run around some circle in
I see.
Nashua.
Kinda the way
And
they
they just
do it.
run around these circles, you know, 6 or 7 times.
Well,
But does that-
I think
as a
we're gonna
town
get
road,
complaints.
Does the state have to put any?
Oh, I would think they'd have to get permission from the state too. Yeah, we can't give permission.
So really, so we can give them
Yeah.
permission for River Road or Rice
Right.
Farm? you know?
And I think I mean, certainly there'd be some questions. I don't know if we're not in a position to put conditions on this. Well, I guess we are, because I would be concerned where everybody's gonna park,
Yeah.
you know, where are the porta potties? Definitely, I think your
And
idea as
do
a
they talk to
sheriff.
the neighbors? Do they talk to the, you know,
People on the
5 or
trail.
6 people
Yeah,
that
right.
live along Quarry Road there? They're-
I doubt it.
No.
I
Um,
don't
Should be a
think
race
so.
plan.
I think we would want more information about where they would, before I would even wanna comment too much, but I think we, like I say, we wanna know where they're gonna park the cars, you know, where the
Yep.
bathroom's gonna be, where they, how many sheriff's department representatives are they planning on hiring?
Rescue or.
And is rescue gonna be, yeah, I think there's some legitimate questions.
Contact with the state.
That came up in the
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah, I think so too. Do you want to follow up with them, or do you want me to send a letter saying, these were our, we're not going to grant permission at this time. These are our concerns, and, you know, how do you propose to address them?
Yeah, either way. I mean, if you wanna do it, that's fine. If you want me to do it, I'll do it. Whatever you wanna do.
Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I don't mind doing it, yeah.
Okay.
I would probably say, I would just say, these are the questions that have come up that we would like an answer to before we consider
Yeah,
this.
yeah. And I think our list is good. The parking, you know, sheriff, permission from the state for Route 30,
Porta potties.
portable toilets, yeah. Tying up traffic on 2 bridges.
Yeah, and if something comes to somebody else's mind here, because I won't do this till probably Sunday. Maria won't do this till probably Sunday.
Yeah, we just gotta, both those intersections are fairly dangerous intersections.
Yeah. Anyway.
You know, so cars
Yeah.
getting stopped for, it's really, even maybe touch base with the sheriff and just ask
Okay,
him. Do you
yeah.
even think this is
Yeah.
a smart?
Okay,
Could you
yeah.
guys control
Yeah.
this if they
Yeah.
want to do this? 'Cause I
Good
mean,
point, that's a good point,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
great.
mean, I really think that another location would be better. I mean, I'm thinking,
Right.
for instance, the Grassy Brook Road loop up in Brookline, a
Mhm.
lot less traffic. You know.
Well, I mean, maybe there are concerns, well, let's express our concerns and start there.
When you're coming south on Route 30 and you want to turn left onto the Green Iron Bridge, and you have to stop because there's traffic going that way and there's people coming behind, you know, and you're watching your rearview mirror, hoping that the person behind you is watching and slowing
Right,
down
right.
because you've stopped in a road that's 50 miles an hour, that's scary.
It isn't much better at the covered bridge.
no, it's not.
Well, but there's,
Either
it's
one of
true.
those.
Well, there's a
It's
bit of, at
true,
least
but-
there's a shoulder, you know, more than.
People are more
You're right,
aware of the
they're both
covered
like-
bridge. People are more, they're looking at the, you know,
Yeah.
the Green Iron Bridge is, you know,
They're both-
But there's nowhere near the traffic, of course, on that, which would be, that there is on the
Right.
covered bridge. So, you know,
Or you
I'll,
could close the, like, Green Bridge to traffic, but that's just gonna
Right.
aggravate the covered bridge. But anyway, the sheriff.
maybe another question would be, have they talked with any of the people that reside on the road?
are we being anti-business?
No, I think we're asking them to give us more information on what their process is. I don't,
I think
I think these are all legitimate concerns that we need to ask.
Yeah, and I think a business that wants to buy properties, set up a business in town and.
Provide a
is one
service
thing.
is different.
You know, a business that's gonna be in Portland on Monday, Nashua on Tuesday, here Wednesday, and Massachusetts Thursday, it's
Yeah,
a
so-
sort of a different
Okay,
business.
good.
I think we're being safe.
I don't like being
Yeah.
anti-business.
But I like the idea that we ask questions and look into it because it helps us, should rescue or somebody else have an event,
Yeah,
we're not saying you can't do it.
right.
Mhm.
True.
Good.
Okay,
Thanks, Steve, for
yes,
following
thank
that.
you.
Yeah,
you.
thanks, Maria.
Thanks, Maria. New business. I'm happy to report that the hazard mitigation plan met with the Wyndham Regional Commission person that's drafting it. Lee Chamberlain was there. We spent 2 hours cutting and pasting and
Great,
filling in.
thank you.
So she's going to
This is.
send us a new draft. We don't have to approve it for a while. The process is, you know, we can look at it, make any additions or changes if you find something. It then goes to, there'll be a, let's see, it gets publicly posted, so people can add to it, make comments. It eventually goes to FEMA for their approval. And if they approve it, then it comes back to the select board for adoption as the hazard mitigation plan. So
And we're required as a town to have a hazard.
if we
mitigation.
want to be eligible for FEMA funds in the future, yeah, you have to have a hazard mitigation plan.
And so, is this draft of July 26th post your taking things out and is this the
No, this
most?
is pre, So if you go through this, you'll
All the
see
highlights.
a lot
right
of
there.
references to Marlboro and,
Okay, and the highlighted things are coming out?
yes, or
Okay.
being revised to be specific to Dummerston.
Okay,
And
So-
there were other additions that were made.
So if there are some things that we see that should be addressed, we should just contact her directly, or,
Yeah, you could do that. You can let her know that this is something, or you can save them up. She'll probably
Oh,
come
okay.
back
Okay.
and present, her cleaned up
but I
version.
yeah, maybe I should forward my thoughts, because, then you might not have to clean it up again.
Yeah, she did say, and anybody in town would be welcome to send her photographs of flooding or
right.
ice storms, or she'd like to have photographs from town that illustrate some of the,
Hazards of climate
yeah,
related.
or just floodplains doing what they're supposed to do, or so invasive insects.
Yeah, one of the invasives that I couldn't find that she listed at all was that multifloral rose, and I thought that was a missed opportunity. So that was one thing I was
Okay.
gonna have her add, the invasives. As you know how enjoyable they are to crawl through.
Right, yeah.
There was a couple other little things that I thought.
Yeah,
So I'll just
yeah,
go in there.
if you just
Okay.
email her,
Yeah.
that seems to be a good way to get in touch with her. And anyone who has photographs they want, can send them to the Wyndham Regional Commission, and just reference the Dummerston Hazard Mitigation Plan, and it will get to her. Okay, moving on. We have an applicant for the Energy Committee.
I would move that we appoint Peter Thorell to the Energy Committee.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I'll let him know the good news. Okay, and we've discussed and voted on the sub-grant. So we move on to unfinished business. And we still have the Miller Fund, options for the Miller Fund, investments, discussion, and possible vote. Any thoughts?
Well, I guess I'll take this one. Jack Davidson was here, I guess just 2 weeks ago, and said that he would get back to us as to the recommendation of the members of their investment staff as to, how to get into the stock market. And what he said is that, I guess one person anyway suggested that we move in 20% each year. I think I refer to it as dollar cost averaging, and it's sort of a defensive mechanism, just because, of course, the market is at an all-time high. I sent you an email that said that if we do that, it will leave us woefully short of the income that we project to distribute from the Miller Fund for the foreseeable future, because it's only yielding, 0.15% as we speak. And, as I said, the bottom line is nobody knows what's going to happen with the market, and what I've suggested is something that I think we can just do and require no further maintenance. What I suggested is something fairly defensive. 70% in the stock market, 30% in the bond market. It will increase the income from the Miller Fund 12-fold. Granted, there will be more volatility with the value of the fund, but I think what will be much more predictable is the income, because even when stock prices go down, dividends tend to not go down, and really, it's the same with interest rates. And I suggested a middle term bond fund. You said you were gonna look into, the Vanguard, funds a little more. The one I suggested was essentially the behemoth. There's been a huge influx of, there's a lot of investors that realized you just can't do better than the market, so you might as well just buy the market and pay practically nothing by way of investment fees. So with all of that said, I guess what I will do is just renew my motion that we invest $70,000 from the Miller Fund and the Vanguard Index 500 Admiral Fund, and $30,000 in their intermediate term bond index fund.
So did you mean 30,000 or 30%?
Well, it's 100,000.
It's about 100,000.
So it'd be 70,000 and 30,000 is what I meant to say.
It's 100,800 or
So
something.
we should say, you want to make that percentages?
No, I want to say that the amount.
Well, let's see, what if something happens and we need a couple of thousand?
We can always sell those funds.
Okay, rather, you'd put the whole schmear in rather than, keeping, a couple thousand in a money market.
I would, because really the disbursements are made, as I recall, in the spring and summer. I just can't imagine any sort of expenditure. I mean, this is for the benefit of children, after all. I can't imagine any imminent need between now and then, and even if that were to arise, these funds are, they could be sold on, any business day.
So, who's going to manage this once?
What I'm saying is that I think there's no management required.
Okay,
I could help Charlotte set it up such that the income is transferred automatically into the remaining fund, checking account,
okay.
and then disbursements could be made from that fund.
And then if we did need to sell, that would be an activity, but that's not something that happens on a regular basis.
Right.
So what, we would obviously have commissions or something that we'd have to pay on this? There's
No. They're called no-load funds, Steve. That's, brokers do not sell them because they don't get paid on a commission basis. And as I said,
So who do you get these through then?
it's the Vanguard Mutual Fund, which is one of, it's probably the biggest one in this country as far as no-load fund. They're in, I guess, in Philadelphia.
Can you buy it directly into them, Joe, or do we go through the Edward Jones?
You would go directly through them.
Through Vanguard?
Yeah,
to buy it?
yeah.
Okay.
Because as I said, brokers would not be getting a commission.
Yeah.
And literally, it's so inexpensive. They've gotten so big. There's nobody managing it. They just replicate the stock market, so they're not paying any investment managers. But it's literally 0.04% is their management fee. And folks like Trust Company of Vermont or most mutual funds are charging more like 1% and more. So they're charging whatever that is, 20 times as much as this unmanaged fund.
I guess one question I would have, Joe, is with the select board changing over time, the people changing over time, this is something that someone needs to know and pay attention to. It's part of what needs to get passed on because Charlotte isn't watching it, or it's not under the auspices
Treasurers come and go also.
Right, I understand, but I would expect that probably the value of the Miller Fund would be reported in the annual report. But as I say, I think the beauty of this arrangement would be that it would just sort of run itself.
Right.
So if I'm following your thought, it's basically costing us $400 to invest in this fund. You said it was 4/100, so 1%. Is that?
Yeah, and that happens to be the stock fund. Okay, that's their annual fee. There's no upfront fee, if you will, but that's what Vanguard charges to, manage it and distribute the income and all that sort of thing. It's 0.04%. They call it 4 basis points is the word that Jack used.
So why, aren't bonds a little stronger now? why would you, with the stock market being so high and our potential to lose possibly, why would you not maybe put more in bonds and where we would have a guaranteed?
Well, Steve, let me just explain the way bonds work. It's not like CDs in that the value of bonds fluctuates. And they fluctuate with interest rates. And of course, interest rates are at a, practically an all-time low right now. When interest rates go up, bond prices are going to go down. Okay, see, let's say you committed, I don't know, 3%, to a treasury bond that was due in 30 years. Okay, if interest rates go up, in which I expect that they will at some point, let's say they went up to 5%. Nobody's going to buy your bond for what you paid for it. And the way the market corrects is the value of your bond goes down, and therefore the yield goes up. And the longer the maturity, the greater the fluctuation. And what I suggested was an intermediate term fund with it's probably an average maturity of, 7 years or something like that. Because those bonds fluctuate a lot less in that you're going to get your money back sooner. So I guess what I'm trying to say, Steve, is there is risk with bonds just as there is with stocks. And I think there's, arguably even more risk with bonds with interest rates where they are. I mean, who could have predicted that, I just looked at one of our bank statements at our office today, we're getting 0.15%, on a money market account. I remember, we all remember when you used to get 5% on a savings account or 5.25% of the savings and loan. Those days are gone.
So, we have two members of the public here who have pretty sharp pencils. What are your thoughts?
Want to go first?
I have no comment, thank you.
Well, I do. Why is it so important to take this money and take it somewhere else? Stay local, don't make a lot of money, when you can only spend so much every year anyway. I just feel that in my investment time, and I'm an old lady, that I have always stayed local. I have been very careful with how I've invested our money. And I feel that, especially with the town money, it's not a good thing to maybe lose it. I'm concerned that what's gonna happen if there is some real disaster. What happens if some child all of a sudden really needs something that's very important that nobody has thought about? And then you're going to really need that money. I'm just an advocate for saving a little bit at a time for a rainy day.
Gene,
And that's my thoughts, is I've been doing accounting all my life.
there is in the unfinished.
Yes, the yellow.
Okay, thanks. Gene, this is, these are numbers that Charlotte put
Pardon?
together. I just wanted to share with you some numbers that Charlotte put together for us.
Actually, Charlotte and I did talk about this.
Okay, well, this year, we earned $133 and distributed $1,300. Last year, we earned $156 and distributed $2,129.
Yes, I know.
And what the Miller Fund, when Fred Miller left the money, he said, the income and interest to be used, it doesn't say income, interest, and principal. And what's going on now is banks don't need the money, okay? So that's why they're paying, almost nothing. And I consider this an endowment fund. And I recognize the importance of investing money locally. But I think our I think our fiduciary duty as, we are in effect are the trustee of public funds. We need to make this money work harder for the needy children of Dummerston so that we can cover the expenditures. And we're not doing it now. The money is just sort of languishing in a money market account, yielding way less than the inflation rate. And I'm suggesting that we do something that, is more permanent, that will better benefit, future generations of needy children in town.
Well, I would say that when you're in a position where you are entrusted with other people's money, you be doubly careful. When Maria and I were auditors together, we watched that fund go down, 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 right, Maria? And nobody paid attention to us.
It went down because it was being spent?
Because it was being spent, not the way it was supposed to be spent. And I'm a very cautious person, and you probably all know. But I'm just nervous.
So you think that it shouldn't be spent? We should just hold on to it? In
No,
a safe place?
no. I think that it should be spent, but it should be spent wisely, which you do.
Right, but we only have like $100 to spend if we're only spending interest.
Right,
Because we're
Well-
spending down the principal now.
yeah, I know. And they have done that before, they have spent principal before.
Again, it's yielding now, it's yielding 0.18%. And it's yielding 0.18% in this money market account. And what I have suggested is that with this balanced approach between stocks and bonds, it will yield 2.126%. And I think over time, that will grow because, think of it like your retirement account. Would you put your entire retirement account in a fund yielding 0.18%? I wouldn't. We need to be thinking about the long term here, and long term, stocks have done way better than CDs and bonds and other fixed income investments.
Well, I'm not gonna get personal here because I'm not gonna tell everybody how I invest. But, we've done fine. And it's just, makes me very nervous.
It is a tough time, Joe, because there is gonna be a market correction, and we don't know if it'll be in 2 months or 12 months or 36 months, but we're not gonna look very good when that market correction comes along. And I understand what you're saying, over 20 years, we'll build a fund.
I get that completely, Steve, and I even said
But
that.
it is hard to sit here and,
I said that in my recommendation, that if you do what I've suggested, I'll almost guarantee it's going to go down at some point.
oh yeah.
What's not going to go down is the income, and it will recover. If you look back when the market tanked, 8 or 9 years ago, the people that bailed are the ones that got hurt. The people that stuck it out, are ahead of the game right now, and I think that's the approach that we need to be taking.
Well,
Sorry, go
I
ahead.
think it's a great discussion. When we spent 10 times what it took in last year. We spent over that this year on the thing. But I guess and I don't know. We're discussing it. I guess if we have a motion or a second, I don't even know yet. But why do we have to? Why can't we have a little more balanced approach? Why does the whole 100,000 have to be invested? Why can't we take a little bit of an approach where we say, okay, we know the original amount was 12 or 13,000. Well, we're not going to go. That'd be worth quite a bit more today. But why not look at maybe we'll put half of that into the percentage what Joe's talking about now. Keep the other half in cash for a very unexpected emergency, which still is quite a bit of money. And then maybe a year from now, when we're discussing this again, maybe it's time to put a little more into it. Or why is it? I guess we're kind of talking this as an all or nothing. I'm not sure if it has to be that way right now. Why can't we invest 50% of the fund into the percentage 70-30, or some amount into the 70-30? Keep the rest in cash. A year from now, who knows? The market may be up further, and we're still going to buy in at the high. It seems like an all or nothing.
Jack,
Wait, you had a question?
If I
I
could,
forgot what it was.
if I could just address Hugh's question, it's sort of what Jack suggested, or some of their folks suggested, we go 20%. If we do that, okay, the income will go from $180 to, I don't know, $300 or something like that, okay? It's interesting. Remember I said that they don't solicit these funds from they don't solicit the investment of institutional funds like this because they're dealing with boards and boards change and I can understand that. As I said earlier, nobody knows what's going to happen with the stock market or interest rates. Probably interest rates are going to go up. Probably the stock market's going to go down at some point. This has been off of this board's radar screen for, I don't know, a decade or more. I won't see any future board, or in a year saying, oh yeah, we need to start, we need to, put more money or invest some more of them in the Miller Fund. Again, what I suggested is something that I think that we can do and forget about and feel good about it, over the long haul.
Well, a year from now, there's still going to be, if we just do a little balance, but it doesn't have to be 20 for 5 years. If it's, 50, if it's an amount now, maybe look at it again next year. I mean, there's enough, institutional knowledge going to be here, next year to either invest some more or to, have this discussion and either not invest some more. So if we do, 50,000, it earns $300 instead of whatever you just said. So if we put it all in and all's good, it makes $600. I mean, is that $300 worth, the risk of not having, any left in cash on hand?
Well, what I'm suggesting is, would generate $2,126 as opposed to $180. And I hear about these, the potential need. As I said, I mean, these funds could be sold any day. And if you look at what we've been expending the money for in recent years, it's been basically, camp scholarships. I mean, I just don't see that, there's going to be an imminent need that can't be addressed.
So with Hugh's idea, if let's, boy, I have trouble even thinking this, but let's say we did 50,000 and you're thinking we could average 2%, that'd still give us $1,000 next year, and we'd still have a little bit from the other money. I mean, it would at least give us a chance to get our feet wet. I'm still having trouble following, Joe, if we buy $50,000 worth of stock now and stock goes to hell and it's only worth 30, how is our income keep this? I'm missing that link.
Well, the reason, Steve, is because when stock prices go down, dividends generally don't go down. See, what happens is the yield goes up. Okay, it's just the market value that goes down, but companies continue to pay their dividends. So that what I'm saying is the 2,000, whatever it is, the 2126. That's not going to go down even if the stock market goes down or interest rates go up.
So this fund only buys stocks that the companies pay dividends on?
Well, it's the 500 biggest industrial companies in this country.
But not all of them pay dividends?
Probably they do not all pay dividends, yes.
So that isn't necessarily accurate. If it drops in value and we have companies that don't buy dividends, we've lost our value temporarily.
Well, I mean, if you sell it,
Then you're really lost.
You would sell it for a loss, but what I'm saying.
But we're not going to get 2% if we're not buying into dividend companies and they drop in value. We're not going to get our 2%. You're only assuming a 2% return because we're buying stocks of companies that pay dividends. I'm just trying to follow.
Right, and what I'm talking really is a balance. When I came up with the 2.126, what I did is I said, okay, if we invested $70,000, in the stock market and $30,000 in the bond market, it will generate, 2.126%. Okay, so it's a balance of, interest from the bonds and you know, and the dividends from the stocks.
What did you figure your interest rate on the bonds would be?
I think maybe I had some of that information. I
Okay.
think it's maybe like 3% or something
Okay.
like that. It's interesting. It's not much more than stocks, just because interest rates are so low.
Right.
Here it is 2.49% on the bonds. And on the stocks, it was 1.97%. So I just, multiplied it out and said, okay, if you do what I suggested, that's what it would be. Yeah,
But for bonds, we know we would get the 2 point whatever percent.
or 2.49, but again, if rates go up, okay,
Right.
then that value is gonna go
Right.
down,
Right,
okay? And the yield will go up, because yield is income over market value, and when market value goes down, the yield would go up, both with stocks and bonds. Again, this is hard for a board, okay, because everybody's got their own opinions. And what I've suggested is something that I think we could just do and forget about.
I don't know if, yeah, given in, say, 5 years, completely different board, this market's down, they look at it and say, gee, what were they thinking back then?
They can look at it.
We've lost, this
$40,000,
value
yeah,
and
on
they-
paper.
Nuts, let's sell it before it gets, worse than this. It's gonna keep, you don't know who's gonna be here in a couple of years.
I would hope cooler heads would predict.
We have, I always hope cooler heads are going to.
Then he stops over to my house.
I look around and sometimes, I see a lot of uncool heads around right now, and not here, of course, but so I don't know what's going to happen. We're taking, look, if this were my money, I'd say, okay, Joe, take it, let's see what happens, and we'll go for it, and I'd pay attention to what was going on. This is the town's money, and, we're here, for just a certain amount of time, and, another board's gonna be here.
Like I said, we are the trustees of public
Yeah.
funds, and
Right.
and I think we need to behave, we need to act in a fiduciary position to do what is in the best interest of, again, future generations of needy children.
Yeah,
And this is what I think.
yeah, I think you have a good argument. You've moved me from, a position where I was completely against this to I'm wavering.
Well, that's good.
Okay?
So if we leave it where it is, are we saying that we would only allocate the interest?
That's up to the members of the board. See, I think, from my perspective, I look at that 100,000 and say, oh, wait, didn't it start with something like less than 30,000? So I look at that as being 70% interest. And so I have no problem, spending $1,000 on camp scholarships. At that rate, it's gonna take us 70 years to run through this money.
But as Hugh said,
Yeah,
this has woefully lagged the inflation rate. We have an obligation to have it as, both grow the principal and the income. And $30,000, 80 years ago, now only worth $100,000, that's not very good.
yeah. I just keep on coming back. Where's that Maple Valley brochure? We can buy Maple
Well,
Valley.
I guess on one thing you said is like, I'm not that concerned about being judged, by future boards, because I don't sit here and judge the guys who sent people to China and wherever they did, or I've never researched how they decided to spend this down because it was getting too much money in it. So, they can come find me if they want to judge me. I'm not concerned about being judged, but I am concerned about being a good steward of the money. And I guess just, I don't know how long we want to spend on this. I'm not really willing to go beyond, probably maybe half of it being invested initially and then half of it staying in cash, just to have, some balance to it. Or maybe I'm an ultra conservative and that's why I'm not retired yet, but I don't know how, I guess to bring it to an end, that's kind of my position right now. I'm willing to do some investing. I'm not willing to invest the whole thing. So.
And I'd like to see us invest some of it. I'm not even sure I would want to go to 50,000, but I would like to see us invest some of it, realizing that is going to have this fluctuation in it.
And we could ride that out because we don't.
And I could live with that because at this point, we still have the balance left that we could look at a year from now or whenever. It's just, it's a terrible time to be buying when the stock is as high as it's ever been. But on the other hand, we met with our broker, our investment counselor the other day, and we went and bought stocks. So, but it's different when it's your money. You can take the chance. When it's the town's money, you'd like to secure that minimum and know we don't lose it. But I would be in favor of investing some. I think I might be even more conservative than you on the number. But.
Jack Davidson, whom you invited to help us with this, came back and said 20% a year. What's his thinking?
Again, it's defensive. Okay, it's it's you get into that. You put new money in the market gradually, just because of the downside potential that you talked about. But as I said, that's going to really hurt us on the income side,
Right.
And as well, it's just I don't know. It just ignores the fact that nobody knows, what's going to happen. I mean, the market it could as easily go up,
Yeah.
okay, and we end up buying in at higher levels.
Or we look great for what we did do. Isn't it kind of, isn't the market like sort of cyclical and about every 4 years or so there's a sort of a correction?
Maybe more than that,
Yeah.
but yes, you're right. The market, what happens, Steve, is that it goes up and then it goes down and then it goes up more.
A little higher, yeah, right, yeah.
And that's been the trend over the last century or whatever it is. And we can't even know where we are in those curves.
Right.
All we can do is say, well, looking back, this is where you want to be. I mean, I even thought it, when I looked at this originally, I thought, well, just put the whole thing in the stock market. And then I thought more and said, no, any responsible investor, has a balanced approach between stocks and bonds. And when I was in the business, it used to be 60% stocks, 40% bonds. And now with interest rates as low as they are, I decided, well, probably something more like a 70-30 split would be more appropriate.
Do these have a minimum investment?
Well, it's like $1,000 or something like that. Yeah. Oh, well, actually, the funds that I selected, it's probably more than that because they're so low cost. I don't know if it's 10,000 or just what it is. But the amount these amounts would clearly qualify for those investments. Oh, and the other thing I mentioned in my email is they said that we should not have to get another tax ID number for these funds. We can just use the town's tax ID number.
And if I remember, he was gonna ask like his 10 consultants and get back to us, and we've only heard from one, is that my answer?
Yeah, I mean, I actually brought his note, okay, and it was just a message, it just said, from Bobby, their tax officer, use the town's tax ID, and then he said 20% every year to go into the index. And I take that to be the stock index. And again, it's just I mean, they're a trust. They're a trust company, and as such, inherently cautious. I mean, I get it. That the market is at an all-time high, and that there is, certainly downside potential, but they don't know any better than the rest of us, to be honest with you.
No, nobody does.
Well, I have a motion, I guess there hasn't even been a second, and I think we do want to bring some closure to this, and what's frustrating is that, again, everybody's got different thoughts, and we all want to do what's best for the fund and and needy children, and
Right, yeah, I think we're making progress. We may not be as quick to jump as you would like, but I think we're, you know, these discussions, I think, have been good.
Mhm.
And I appreciate the work you put into this.
Well, thanks.
And I think personally, if we were in the neighborhood of a third or something, I might feel a little better about it, but I hate to jump in 100% 70-30 or whatever the split we decided on.
Well, I'll do what I did last time. I'll make a motion, or I'll second Joe's motion, but I think I already told you kind of where I stand on the vote, but just so we can move on with the motion.
Okay, so we've got a motion then and second to invest the entire amount at 70% or 70,000 in
Vanguard stock fund,
stock and 30% in bonds.
Vanguard bond fund, yes,
Okay,
intermediate term.
all right. So,
So would you accept an amendment to do a 70-30 split on those two funds with a third of the value of the Miller Fund this year?
I would not accept that amendment, no.
okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Or nay.
Okay, so 4-1. I've lost some that bad too sometimes, but.
I will lose no sleep.
Well, it's a lot of work, you know, it's a good discussion, okay. We need to do better, we'll figure out how.
You wouldn't consider trying a lesser amount to,
I don't think that, I think it's, you do it all or you don't do it. You know, just doing a little bit doesn't seem like, what are you gonna learn? The stock market goes up and down, it goes up and down, it goes up and down. For a select board to pay attention to that, that's not a good thing, because when it goes down, you're feeling like, oh, we gotta pull out. When it goes up, people are happy, you know, it's like, it's fluctuating. So I think with town funds, you just don't have the opportunity to, in a town like Dummerston, I don't know, I just don't think that we can play the stock market.
Well, and that's why I think with a less fund you're not, because just like if you have a 401k, but you had, you know, if you could fill that 401k up at 2 months, or you could disperse that out over 12 months, which would you do? I mean, some people might say, like Joe's saying, well, let's fill it all up in the first 2 months of the year, whereas I would say, no, I would rather buy some of that for 12 months over the year and accept that switch. You know, it's gonna fluctuate. So I'm not on the all or nothing. You know, you can get in. I mean, you know, the stock market was at an all-time high in March. Well, that was for a day. You know, now it's at an all-time high in August. I mean, it's going to change. It's, you know, in March of 2009, it was at an all-time low.
Right.
but even the person that we asked specifically to come in and help us with this discussion says 20% a year over 5 years. So
So we're not looking for the Powerball win. You know,
yeah,
day one.
we're taking the advice of the guy that we asked for advice and who deals in this, and right, it wasn't his was basically, and I'm saying
one
we
of
could,
the 10.
Yeah, well,
Well, even Jack said-
I don't know how many,
yeah,
you know.
but even
Yeah, Jack.
said 20%,
Yeah.
and I'm saying, you know, 30% essentially might be a place to start, but okay.
So,
Well,
do you-
and again, what Jack was suggesting, and I wish he hadn't gotten into the whole, what they call the unit trust approach,
Right.
where he suggested we distribute, say, was it 4%? I think that's the number he finally suggested. I mean, if we did that, okay, and we only invested 20%, we'd be losing, I mean, it'd be going down something like, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000 a year. So,
all right, do you want to put this on the back burner, think about it more,
I guess I'd like to look into the van. I still haven't had time to look into the
Okay,
van
yeah,
guy fund,
I-
so that would help if I knew a little more about what
I
Joe was
spent a little
promoting.
time looking into that, and so that's what caused me to feel a little bit better about this.
Why don't I just give these to you? These are the Morningstar reports for those two funds. And Morningstar is an investment rating agency, and it sort of gives you some historical perspective and talks about their fees and also. Let me just give these to you. You can
Does
look at
anybody
those.
else want these? Because I mean,
I've looked at them.
okay,
Yeah,
I mean, I'd love to look at
I
them.
don't know either.
you can bring them back next time.
Okay, we're gonna move on?
Yep.
All right, so, this is on the back burner.
Yep.
We can bring this, put it on the front burner again.
Sure.
All right, any thoughts on increasing participation, town government, town meeting? We got a couple of letters.
Yeah, I mean, is it time to either just, we'll say we wanted, we could reach out, we could put a ad out, or how we do that, to, we're gonna solicit people to sit on, maybe an advisory group to look at alternatives to how we conduct our town meeting to increase voter participation. And then we could, each one of us, seek out names and then try to establish that, next month. And
Yeah, now let's see if we can seek people that want to help us seek people to make the meeting. And we might have trouble getting those people,
I think,
but,
yeah, we may.
yeah, it's,
Yeah. I mean,
It's
there's
an
been-
unfortunate-
There's been some interest in people who've said they would do that.
oh, good,
You
oh,
know.
okay.
But again, what I'll say is, just like we were talking earlier, who's gonna sign up for that? The people that have an interest, and whatever. But I think what it would take is getting give an advisory group, kind of give them some marching orders, and then basically their out product would be maybe a presentation to us, and then a presentation at the town meeting to let people chew on who are there. And then if, we wanted to, sometime next year after that, would go to a special town meeting to determine if we want to enact those changes that they recommend. All the hard work, though, to get up to that is if people are willing to participate in that. I mean, other than that, there's not a lot of, we can get out there and beat the drums and, really work it and do it, but, the time expenditure on that, I don't know, none of us have a lot of extra time to, take that on, or, even present it, and, make a presentation and present it. And I don't think it's wise for one person to do it. I think you really, you need to get several people involved in that, who then have their network of 10 or 12 people they could ask, and then, come back and give us some ideas. And maybe when we look at that, we'd have no one that wanted to be on it, and then I think
We've answered our own question then, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think it'd be great to have an advisory group that put a little more thought into this. I think it'd be great to have people that are not select board members out talking to people, taking advantage of events that are already planned in Dummerston, where Dummerston residents come, and be given the opportunity at those other events to encourage people. I mean, I think, like I said before the meeting, your article, although maybe it only got 3 or 4 direct responses, starts to build motivation. People read it and they think about it, they're sitting at their kitchen table, and then the next time something comes where someone's mentioning this, they're a little bit more ready to respond in an active way. I think it's awesome that you're, beating the drum. And I think that things, start small and it's the ripple effect. And by us talking about it, that's, the core, and then you get another group, and, I think it's a good idea.
Cindy, John?
I'd suggest you consider a SurveyMonkey survey to the town office email list, asking people, do you attend town meeting? Do you come and vote on the Australian ballot? Would you be more likely? But, get some broad input that way, and if they wanted to add their name and phone number, they could be in a drawing for a quart of Gleibach syrup. And you'd get a really good response.
I just was talking about donations. How about Scott Farm apples?
But that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of thing that would come out of a committee,
Right, that's
out of
right.
an advisory committee, and they would do it. We're not gonna do a Survey Monkey, we
No.
don't have the time to do
No.
that, but other people, you know, we've had somebody say to Zeke, well, if you do form a committee, let me know, you know, and so we can,
Right.
there's the
So we've
first
got
person,
One person,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I
That's
think, you know,
where
if we
things
could
start.
each, you know, of course, that's the person I'm gonna call. No, but if we could get, you know, if each one of us
That's a
could
great
try to
idea.
get somebody, you know, to have an interest in it, and then if we had some interest, then we could establish some, you know, parameters, and then ask them to come, present those to them, and then just say, here's your kind of marching orders, and then, you know, if, that's the out product, would be some kind of presentation to us with alternatives. You know, whether it's a Saturday, whether it's a two-part, whether it's childcare, whether it's elderly parking, who knows, you know. I don't want to give them the idea, you
Right,
know.
yeah.
I just, you know, to me, the end state is 5% of the people deciding on what goes on is just, doesn't seem.
Not acceptable, yeah.
But if, you know, it generates no interest, we'll talk about it a little bit more, or I will, but, you know, eventually it will change. I mean, it can't go on like this forever. The worst part is, you know, like the town plan a few years ago, everybody was silent until it came time for a vote, right? And then all of a sudden it was like, all those years of, you know, effort, all of a sudden people read it, and it's like, whoa, I didn't know that was in there, you know? Fortunately, we haven't had anything like that in the town, because I think we're very transparent, but that's my suggestion. I don't know if if you guys, if it needs something, or if you want to try to, each
Okay,
person
so-
touch somebody.
Let's see, there's a, planning commission's having a forum on the town plan, I think on the 29th. So there'll be a group of people there. We might be able to stand up and let people know that, oh, this is something that we're trying to get people who are interested.
Yeah, I will not be here on the 29th.
Yeah, but that's one venue where we could generate some interest. Of course, people watching this, we could get in touch with the Commons and Reformer, possibly writing an article, get some.
Well, you know, that article, the last one that was in the Views, I don't know if they print something like that in the Commons, or that's kind of a long for
Yeah, they probably, yeah, maybe do an interview.
yeah.
So we looking at sort of starting the legwork to get a committee? Is that what it is?
I think that's the next logical step, if you guys, if you feel it's important enough to try to I don't foresee anything happening. I think we're gonna have a traditional town meeting next March, and I think that's the first opportunity to at least address, broader, the range of people who come to the town meeting,
Yeah.
And maybe by talking about this, we'll be surprised, we'll have a bigger group show up.
Right. Okay, so we'll start beating the bushes to see who's interested.
All right. 2 volunteers already here.
Always ask.
Maybe we'll find a select board assistant out of the effort.
Maybe. Always be optimistic. Okay, zoning administrator, the 3-month review was completed, maybe after 5 months or so, but our intentions were good. What would you like to do?
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the review if we need that, and I'd like to conclude in that we offer Roger $1 an hour raise backdated to the 1st of July.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, discussion?
Only that he's doing a great job.
Yeah, he's doing an awesome job.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. It's unanimous. Want to give him the good news?
I will.
Okay. Do you want to speak to Charlotte so she can get that accounting taken care of?
Okay.
And I'll write that on the form with today's date.
Great. Okay. All right. So, we tabled on the agenda, social service advisory discussion, and we tabled the appointments. So it just is showing up as unfinished business. What would you like to do?
We have some candidates, don't we?
Yes.
I think we should approve them.
Okay.
Are they people that we have to interview? Is that the same process?
Let's see. There were two people who were new, and we tabled those interviews, and we tabled the appointments, till we could have more discussion and figure out what, the board wanted to do. So there were three people: Rita Ramirez, Bill Kells Walsh, and
Sarah
Sa-
Ryan.
Sandra Ryan, who wanted to be reappointed.
I would move that we reappoint those three.
Those are all reappointments.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
so they don't need to be.
I would second that.
Okay, discussion?
So are we gonna talk to the Dummerston Cares to see if we would prefer to give them a lump sum of money and then they determine how they wanna use that money, whether it's for themselves or for some of these included organizations? We've kinda-
I think we can still have that conversation. I don't think we should hold up the Social Services Committee as it stands. I mean, until we make a decision. I mean, just by appointing these people to the committee doesn't preclude our opportunity to continue the discussion and change the way we organize things, if that's what we're choosing to do.
I agree with Jerome.
Like, we don't wanna tie their
Yeah,
ankles, while we're having the discussion about it.
right, I don't know if you guys received any requests yet for next year's budget?
We do not solicit requests until the fall.
Okay.
So our discussion last meeting, Carolyn,
Yeah,
you weren't
maybe
here
I
last
missed something
meeting,
I wasn't.
was that my thought was, I guess I mentioned, was that if we weren't gonna have the committee, then why would we make appointments? So I thought last time we delayed it, thinking we would have more discussion about how, if we were gonna take it back ourselves, or like Hugh says, if it was going to somebody else. So we thought we should just determine, or I thought, I guess, that we should determine if we were even gonna have the committee before we started making appointments to it. If we start making appointments to it, then one would assume that we're gonna continue the way we've done it before.
Mhm.
That was my thought a couple weeks ago.
That's a pretty big change. And I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that without knowing the sentiment of more people. And so my feeling would be continue as we've been going and continue the discussion and change it down the road if we need to. I didn't think there was an imminent, a possibility of an imminent change, but I missed the last meeting, so maybe I'm not up to speed.
Yeah, I don't think we know if there's gonna be a change until we talk to
Right.
Dummerston Cares and see what, maybe their plate's full and they don't wanna take on anymore.
Right,
I don't know. But until we talk to them,
So the Social Services Committee is really in jeopardy.
I don't know as we make that decision.
No, it's not a decision.
Was to delay the appointments. The social services funds are actually, it was the job of the select board to deal with them, and we asked for a committee to help us. if we were in fact gonna take it back ourselves or use a different method, my thought last time, 2 weeks ago, was to wait on the appointments till we had an idea of how we were gonna proceed. Which if we talked to Dummerston Cares and decided that was how we did it, we might not need the committee. I'm not saying yes or no, I'm just saying why we were
I see.
delaying the appointments. It made sense to delay them till we knew what we were doing before we appointed them, was my thought, but.
But is there anyone on this board that wants to take that responsibility back from the social services?
Let me say right now that I do not want
And
to.
I do not, okay.
And I don't know if we're saying that we want to, we've talked about this, whether there's an alternative, and that may not be a viable alternative, but that alternative would be the Dummerston Cares, and look how we distribute the money, a line item to them, and then they can take care of what their mandate that they do for the residents of Dummerston, and if they have excess money and they see something that they want to donate to, then they have the ability to do that. And then maybe the next fall, when they've expended their money, they come back and tell us how they expended it.
Well, if I could just say, as Geraldine suggested, that we could still do that after we reappoint these 3 members.
They are not on the payroll, so having them on a committee won't cost us too much. So, and then they'll be ready to go if we need the Social Services Advisory Committee to jump into action this fall, burn through those applications. Yes, Cindy Jerome.
Can I just clarify, Hugh, it sounds like you're saying that one possibility is giving tax dollars, including money that's currently distributed to organizations that are vetted by the committee, approved by the select board, and/or by the voters, giving it to Dummerston Cares, and then they would decide who to distribute any extra money to, any extra tax dollars without
Yeah,
your
well, I
approval or
think
the
that
voters'
that's.
approval?
No, I think yes, to a degree, yes, what you're saying is that it would not be anywhere near the amount that we're seeing in the budget right now. We would have to talk to them and see, see how they're doing. They're basically focused on residents of Dummerston, right?
Yes,
Okay.
and primarily people who are elders or shut-ins or,
So I guess if they had extra money and they were referring someone to some organization, then, and they're referring that person, maybe along with that person could go some money if they had it to give to them. I don't know, it's a discussion that it's worth asking. I don't know, I don't know how that would work, but I'd certainly like to see, focused on residents of Dummerston, a Dummerston organization, and then
so,
see how they're doing, I guess. That's why we need to talk to them on what, do they even reach out to these other organizations?
so Dummerston Cares would be taking inquiries about childcare or hospice care or homelessness or needing home health services.
I guess I
or-
didn't mean it to be that broad, no.
So it would be a way to pretty much just stop making those contributions, but really supporting Dummerston Cares.
I'd like to support Dummerston Cares, yes, yep.
Okay, any further discussion? We have 3 nominations to the Social Services Advisory.
That are reappointments, people who
Reappointments.
have been serving.
Reappointments, yes. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Good. Aye.
Okay. All right. I'll be happy to let them know, or if you.
I'm happy to let them know. Was that unanimous?
That was
Yes, that was
Thank you.
unanimous.
Thank you. I'll be glad to tell them that.
And are there a couple of new people that have stepped forward?
There are 2 people who have sent us letters, and one was scheduled for an interview, but with this being put on hold, I let her know that, what had happened, we were putting
In
this on
discussion.
hold. And I'd be getting back to her when we were ready to, or if we were ready to go ahead.
We'd like to have, if I may speak, at least 8 members. That makes the workload a lot easier to split up. We had 5 people with a possible 6th who were interested but have not all contacted you yet. They knew there was kind of a pause here. So what should I be telling them? Can I tell them that
I would
it's...
say that we just unanimously reappointed 3 people.
Yes.
So I would think that I don't... Now, what's the sense of the board? I would say go ahead.
I would like to interview them.
Yeah, anyone who's interested.
Yeah, it is awkward interviewing people when we don't know whether we as a board are in support of the committee. It's one thing to reappoint people who have been on the committee. So does that mean you have 4 people now, you plus these 3?
That's right.
Okay.
And we should even tell folks when we interview that, we've had a good discussion about, this very matter. I'd like to know what their thoughts are also. Prospective committee members, what do you think the role of town government should be as far as making donations to these organizations?
We can let them know that it's kind of, we're having a discussion on this,
Exactly.
and we don't know where it's going right yet, but
Yeah, how do you feel about that, Cindy? New members?
I feel like it's hard to get volunteers, and it's really nice to welcome them and make it
Yeah.
clear that they're needed. And yet, they're waiting in the wings, so I wish that we could go ahead and wholeheartedly interview them and appoint them. And I don't know where to tell you to go from there, since I know that's not the way you would be approaching it. But we do need to gear up the committee and be ready to go pretty soon.
right, it is getting close to
Yes.
the time.
Yeah, I would, I'll just say that, for these 3, it's very, anybody step up and volunteer their time. So, I think this was fine to appoint these. I don't know, I think we all know where my feelings are on the whole process. So I think we did the right thing by, getting these folks reestablished who've already been on the committee, but to bring, I don't know, if 6-1, half does the other. If we want to bring them in and tell them that, if you want to have a full-up committee, knowing that, we're trying, there's, I guess you've been on the committee a long time. If you would like to have a full-up committee, going in, then, other than my feelings on the whole process, I don't think there's any reason to hold you up while we're trying to establish how we're going to approach the social service fund.
My suggestion would be, Cindy, for you to invite them to your meeting, your next meeting, and for us to continue our discussion. I fully expect to be appointing them. That's just my opinion and the way I'm imagining us move forward. Just thinking about the town, not just thinking about my opinion, but thinking about the town and the committee and the background. And so I would fully expect to be appointing them. But I feel awkward inviting them in, doing an interview when we're in discussion. So I don't see any reason why you couldn't wholeheartedly welcome them into your committee to get oriented and understand what the committee is about, and without necessarily having them be appointed by the select board.
Well, I'd like to have them working members of the committee. I sort of have a sense where this board may be going on this one, I would like to interview them.
Okay.
Is it safe to say that the only circumstance under which the Social Services Advisory Committee would not be expected to continue doing what we've done is if Dummerston Cares says, why yes, we would like to take over this responsibility, however big or small it is, and then it's possible that the majority of the board might decide that. As I'm saying that, though, it kind of doesn't make sense, because what it really seems you're suggesting, Hugh, is that you would be talking to Dummerston Cares, but the point would be to discontinue providing tax dollars to these other organizations, and you really just want to support Dummerston Cares. It doesn't seem like they would be taking over what the Social Services
Right.
Advisory Committee does
I think
at
that's-
all.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering under what circumstance, I mean, why wait for that conversation before making a decision? Because it doesn't sound like you're trying to decide who's gonna do this work. It's more, are we gonna do money still? And therefore it's worthwhile to have a vetting process through the existing committee? Or are we just not gonna do it anymore and rely on Dummerston Cares to do what we think needs to be done? Which is a much smaller task because much less needs to be done in the view of some.
Mhm. Good.
Realistically, we're not gonna start working on the budget till towards the end of September. And we wanna visit with Dummerston Cares. You're probably not gonna start working until early October. I mean, you
End of
wouldn't start in
September, early
September.
October, that's right.
So, couldn't we just wait till we talk to Dummerston Cares if we could do it next meeting? Then we could have our discussion about if we're, you know, if,
We're talking only, 6 weeks away, and this board meets only every 2 weeks. And,
well, we're not even gonna start till October, or end of September,
Well,
and then
we-
they would be a little while. I'm just saying, I don't know why there's a rush, but,
well,
that's just
yeah,
my
I mean,
thought.
they're probably not.
I mean, it isn't
all
like we're gonna start working on our budget
Oh,
August
I
30th.
understand, Steve, but it's not like we're necessarily gonna get them all in 2
We have
weeks.
3 meetings
Yeah.
before we start working on the budget.
Right.
We have 3 meetings.
And I'll just remind you that you have 2 applicants for our DRB.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up later, yeah.
So I can tell interested parties that they will be interviewed in September. And that I'll get back to them about dates that you are interested in them coming and interviewing with you. Is that kind of where we're going?
If we're going to interview, then we could start on the 30th of August, our next meeting.
That's what I would suggest, because they're probably not all gonna be available at the same dates.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, then you're saying let's interview them as soon as possible. I thought what we were saying, what Cindy was suggesting is giving us a little time to meet, if Dummerston Cares can meet, and then we would interview them, because we would have already had this discussion, and maybe we'll come to something a little bit more grounded.
Yeah, I like if Dummerston Cares, if they could come on the 6th of September. That would be
Are you?
Oh, because you're not gonna be here on the 30th?
correct.
Okay.
Okay. Good, well, that's a step.
The 6th is
Yeah,
only
and then
one
it'll be
week
a
after
meeting
the
the 6th.
30th.
Oh, the
Right.
13th.
Yeah, so we'd be meeting
Oh,
on the
the 13th.
13th.
Yeah, okay.
And again, the purpose of meeting with Dummerston Cares first is to see if you're just gonna discontinue funding?
I don't think so.
No.
No, I think you're off base with that.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
we wanna know what Dummerston Care does.
Right.
What their financial needs are. I mean, maybe one has a little bit to do with the other, but personally, I just like to talk to Dummerston Cares and see what they do within the community, so I'm a little more up to speed on what they do, and then from that, we could then look at what the social commitment might be to the
I
committee.
Right.
I think you're tying 2 things together that maybe aren't
Well,
quite.
I
Well,
thought
no,
you inadvertently
I
did
Tie
that.
it
Yeah.
together. We
Yeah,
tie it
I'd
together.
like to ask Dummerston
Yeah.
Cares, what are their, do they want to take care of battered women in town? Or do they want to deal with opioid problems in town?
Well, the Social Services Agency Advisory Committee is not dealing with those
Right, yeah.
people.
No, but they're vetting organizations that do, that
Right.
the town su-
I see, so
supports.
if
So-
we don't support those, we want to know that somehow we
Someone
have
does.
some support in the community for those kinds of things. That's what you're saying?
Yes, those are needs in the community that we may not all like the way we fund, but those are groups that serve members of our community.
Yeah, although Hugh's point was we fund the fire department, rescue, and the sheriff, and that's really all we need to do to
Right.
provide the welfare.
And we could shut down the library. in West Dummerston, because I don't go to the West Dummerston Library.
Oh my God, are you asking for trouble? Jeez. That we are not promoting.
All right, so, so I'm just saying, we don't pick and choose, entirely. We're a community, and whether you have a dog or cat, need the Humane Society, or, it's a community. So I think, I'm not, I don't like being in this position of saying, okay, yeah, we're going to make everybody pay taxes to support a shelter for battered women, but because there are battered women, this is something we've got to do as a community. So that's how I'm leaning right now.
I just want to say a good word about Dummerston Cares. They have this flyer out there. It's remarkable how much more they are doing.
It is.
Okay.
And some things that they'd like to get into,
All
so
right,
you
so
might want to
let's
look at that
get
before
them
that
in here
happens.
and let's see what they want to do.
Yeah, no, they're doing amazing
Yeah,
things.
it's very exciting.
They're gearing up to do amazing
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Okay,
So,
so I'll see if someone wants to come for an interview on August 30th.
Okay, so we'll be interviewing them as soon as we can.
okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's see. Any more discussion on this? Would you like to move on?
Sure.
Okay. Other business. Joe, did you want to give
Well,
us?
I saw on Facebook, I think it deserves mention, that the West River Trail apparently has been blockaded at the Rice Farm Road. There have been barriers put up and a fence, and I think there's a no trespassing sign, and I believe it was the insinuation was it was by Melvin Mayo. And I understand there's a court hearing on the matter on Monday, at presumably the Superior Court, to decide the ownership. I guess he's asserting ownership of that property based on the town tax map, which the trail folks think is inaccurate. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Was there
Yeah.
a court decision already?
No.
There was.
Yes.
Yes.
But-
Okay. So then there's so right now, Melvin Mayo is going on the decision of the court, which said when the railroad went under, the property that was the railroad bed reverted to the previous, landowners. So he's saying, so that railroad bed that goes through his property is his property, and he would prefer not to have people crossing his property. So that's, I think, where it stands. And you're saying there's an appeal?
I haven't followed, I wasn't even aware there was a court decision on the
No,
matter.
we got, the listers got a copy of that here, gosh, a month ago? 6
Right.
weeks
But there
ago?
is a court hearing on Monday.
Okay. All right.
And I don't know enough of the detail to be able to tie the two together.
Okay, so people should stay
So
tuned.
why are you mentioning this now?
Well, only I
John?
saw it on Facebook, a couple of people are pretty upset.
So I guess if people have questions about it and want clarification, they should contact somebody on the West River Trail
Right.
group, which would be Alex Wilson, Lester Humphreys,
Jason Dunkley.
Jason Cooper.
Yeah.
So any of those people.
Okay. Let's see. Any other business?
Didn't I say a letter in there of Melissa Worden resigning from the library trustees?
She did, yes, she did.
Yeah.
Don't we need to accept that?
I don't think I don't think we accept, elected officials resigning.
Okay.
And how does the position get filled then, if it's an elected position, or is it just empty until?
I don't know how the trustees do that, or, I don't know.
Well, I would just like to acknowledge that I'm sorry for her loss and as a trustee, and thank her for her efforts
Yeah,
over there.
it's been,
Right.
I would agree with that.
She has
Thank
long
you,
been a
sir.
supporter of the library.
I understand they're looking for a librarian, and if she was Interesting, I know she was very.
So I would think the board would thank her and pass that along to her. But,
Thank you, I will.
the other thing I had was, Zeke had asked me to schedule Diana's DRB hearing, interview. So I wondered about, and then there's another one too.
Yeah,
So,
Someone-
should we try to schedule both of them on the 13th if they were available?
sure. If
Is that
works for you.
agreeable? Do you want to get a hold of?
Why not the 30th of August?
Because I wasn't sure we'd have a whole board here, so.
Oh, is there more than you not gonna be able to be present at the meeting?
I'll be here.
I'll be there, but I'm recusing myself on this one.
Yeah, right, yeah,
We've had
and I'm not
three.
sure, yeah.
Oh,
so,
you're not sure,
I
okay.
wasn't supposed to be here tonight, but I wanted to be here to argue with Cindy. Discuss. with Cindy.
You're already trying to set up the social services committee interviews for the 30th.
Those were the 30th.
And there's, I don't know how many of them are there?
Have
Just,
only two
Two?
applied to you so
That's-
far by
that's-
letter or email?
2
Okay.
so far.
So then if you add 2 candidates, then you're doing 4 interviews on that same night.
Well, I don't think we would do 4 on the same night, but who's ever calling them, you know, if only one of them is, then they could call the DRB, you know. But if we don't want to interview DRB people on the 30th because Hugh isn't going to be here, that's certainly a reason to postpone them. But if the social services volunteers, people who are stepping forward, can't do the 30th and they can do the 13th, then the 30th is open. So
Okay.
we don't want to.
You're not here on the 30th, right?
Correct.
Okay. Hugh is my DRB go-to guy,
Yes.
so.
Right.
I
Got it.
think that he-
Okay, so I'll try to set mine up for that, Diana up for that day, and will you contact Jennifer Sargent, or do you want?
I'm
Oh, wow!
watching, you know,
Okay, apparently I'll be contacting her to see if she would be available that
Or
evening.
Maria.
I think,
Oh, yeah, Maria, honestly,
So you only have to be here for one meeting to know what the next line is,
Yeah.
right?
yeah, I think I should stay out of that whole thing.
okay, alrighty. Okay, so is that agreeable then? We'll try to schedule, if they're available, I mean, we don't know if they're available that night, but I will try.
Good.
Okay.
For the 13th.
13th, yeah. So we'd start at 5 o'clock that night?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll just drink some beer in the next room while you're doing that.
Guess that's all I had for other stuff.
Okay. Any other business? Okay, well then,
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.